This is the TurboAnt R9 electric scooter. Now I checked out another TurboAnt scooter last year, the X7 Max, and I really enjoyed that thing. I just had two complaints about it. It had no suspension and it only went 20 miles per hour max. But this new R9 boasts a higher top speed of 28 miles an hour with more power. It also has an upgraded 48 volt 12.5 amp hour battery paired to a 500 watt hub motor in the rear with full suspension. They even claim the R9 can do some light off-roading with its knobby tires. So it sounds like on paper they fixed a lot of the issues that I had with the X7 Max. So are all these upgrades worth the price tag of $529? Let's find out. I love how much smaller these scooter boxes are. This one isn't exactly light though, because we've got some pretty decent specs on this scooter. And they give us this box with the charger in it. It's a 54.6 volt 2 amp charger, so we're on a 48 volt battery here. They also give us a little hose for the tires to inflate them. You can see in the background here my other TurboAnt X7 Max, and this one's only a 38 volt battery, and it's front wheel drive too. This was a really good scooter, I was really happy with it, but this is sort of like an upgraded version of that. Way easier than a bike to get out the box. And we can't forget the most important part, our instruction manual. Don't need this anymore. And it looks like we're gonna have to put our handlebars on ourselves right here. We'll shove all of those wires into the handlebars here. Just got 4 of these little Allen bolts here, 2 on each side of these handlebars. So they give you this little thing on the handlebars here, and it actually tells you what conditions the range test was done under on this. So it is a 165 pound rider, 20 miles per hour. It tells you the weather, the tire pressure that they had, the battery status, the road conditions. I've never seen a company include like the weather conditions when they were testing. Get that off these handlebars here. It's so nice to have a scooter on the channel sometimes, because it took me like 2-3 minutes to assemble this thing fully. And I mean, it mostly came assembled anyways. So I'll give you guys a tour of this thing real quick. All right, so the TurboAnt R9. By the way, I don't know how those skid marks got there. Totally not from the scooter just now, but this thing looks really nice. I love the red and black accents that TurboAnt does. Looks a lot like that TurboAnt scooter back there too. But this thing, pretty good looking scooter. And so down here in the front, we have a drum brake and we have full suspension on the front here. And then we also have this headlight here, which is adjustable. And of course, this is a folding scooter, and we'll fold that down here in a second, but you use this latch to fold it down. It's got a latch on the back there that allows the handlebars to hook up so that you can pick it up and carry it around. So we've also got the deck here, which is rubberized and feels really good. It's not super grippy, but you're not gonna be slipping around on this. And of course, we've got our kickstand here and then our charging port there, and also all the specs of the scooter listed here. And then we've got our rear suspension here, which is awesome that this is a full suspension scooter, because they are marketing this thing as something that can go a little bit off-road, and you know we're going to test that out. But then we have a rear hub motor back here, again on the kind of knobby-ish pneumatic tires here, so these are tube tires. And then they have a drum brake in the front and rear as well. To turn the scooter on, you just hold the power button like that. You've got our display, but they do have a brake light on the back here, which also turns into a tail light, and you can still use it as a brake light. It also comes with turn signals, and it beeps when the turn signals are running. You can't have them both on at the same time. It also has a regen brake, so I mean, you have 3 brakes on this thing, so you should have pretty good stopping power. On the front here, you can see the linkage for the drum brake, and then all the cables run up here into the handlebars. All right, so up here is our cockpit, and this is your rear brake right here. You've got some nice rubber grips on here that feel awesome. And you've got your turn signals here, which, like you saw earlier, beep when you have them on. You got a horn, which is actually really loud. Sounds like an e-bike horn. And then you've got your display here, which gives you your miles per hour, or you can switch it to kilometers if you hit the power button 3 times. So then if you hit the power button 4 times, it turns off the push start on this, so you don't have to push yourself off in order to get going. You can just push the throttle and it goes. And then this little arrow here is gonna change your modes. And if you press the power button, it turns your headlight on and off. That is the beam pattern on your headlight. No front turn signals on this. And after looking in the manual, as far as I saw, there's no Bluetooth app for this thing, so you can't really connect it. You've got your little twist throttle here, and then you've got your front brake up here, and then another rubberized grip. So a pretty simple cockpit, but overall, good quality feeling. This feels like an upgrade from the X7 Max here. I think this is like their top of the line scooter right now, so this thing feels awesome so far. So I am 5'9" and 150 pounds here, and I'm standing on the R9 trying to balance. Everything feels really solid. Like I said, my feet don't really slip off the deck there. And then the suspension feels nice and bouncy. Haven't taken this thing out yet, so I'm not 100% sure, but they do claim that this thing can go off-road, and then we can obviously flip this thing, the handlebars down, so that we lock it up, and then we can just take it around like this. It's a pretty heavy scooter. You're probably not gonna wanna do this much. You're probably just gonna wanna do that to get up a flight of stairs for your apartment or something. But it is nice that you can detach the handlebars like that. Overall, the R9 is looking like a good scooter so far, so why don't we get this thing out on the road and see how it does out in the real world. And of course, take it on an off-road test as well. All right guys, so we're riding around out here on the TurboAnt R9, and this has been a fun scooter so far. It's nice to switch it up sometimes and take out an electric scooter instead of just an e-bike. But this scooter fixes a lot of the issues that I had with the X7 Max, and that was its low top speed and no suspension. So this is a 500 watt motor and it's a 48 volt system, whereas the other one was like a 250 or 300 watt 36 volt motor. I'm gonna flip around right here. Going a little bit off-road, we'll talk more about that later. But I really wasn't impressed with the power on that scooter, and just the lack of suspension was not great. Even on like relatively flat roads, like it just kind of shook you around, and any sort of bump in the road was going to give you, it was going to jolt you around. And that one had the honeycomb tires where you didn't need to air them up and you never get flats on them. These have actual pneumatic tires with a tube in it, so it's air tires, so it's more of a normal tire on here. And the ride is way better. It's still a scooter, it's still kind of like twitchy, and you know, you don't want to be moving the handlebars too much too quick, but you know, this is much better riding. The power feels a lot better thanks to the 48 volt battery and the higher power motor. But we're coming up on some off-road stuff right here, and we're gonna talk about this bike's off-road capabilities. So they aren't marketing this as like a strictly off-road scooter, but they do say that you can take this thing off-road, and it is in their marketing material a little bit too. And I just wanted to show you guys what it's like, kind of almost worst case scenario, realistically what you'd expect a scooter to be doing, going off-road up some grass here. It's not too bumpy or anything, so it's not like it's really, you know, having to go over big bumps and stuff, but you know, we're only hitting like, I don't know if you can see the phone screen, we're only hitting like 7-8 miles an hour. Now we're hitting more of this rocky stuff here, and it's handling it. Now that we're going downhill, we're gonna hit some mud right now. I'm gonna go kind of slow through this. But you know, we went through the mud here. It's got some nice knobby tires on it, which you can hear when you're riding on the pavement. But you know, we're hitting 10 right now, and it's not like an e-bike that I usually take over this terrain here, where it's just kind of blasting through it at, you know, 20-30 miles an hour. But you can hear my voice too. Ooh, this is rough right here. We're hitting rocks. My phone mount is falling down. So look, this thing can go a little bit off-road, and we'll go on a more flat grass surface later. But this, make no mistake, this is definitely more of a street scooter. Even though they do market it that it can go a little bit off-road. You can, but do you really want to? Because, you know, you were really pushing it there, and I think with anything other than a full battery, you're not gonna have the best time. So now that we're on some open road here, we're going a little bit uphill. You can see we're hitting 18, 19 on, well, maybe you can't see it because I can barely even see the screen here, but the screen is saying about 20, the phone's saying about 17, 18, now we're going a little bit downhill. And so they market this as a 28 mile an hour top speed here, and it's hit it on the built-in display, but on my GPS I haven't been able to get it up to that yet. There's no like battery gauge, it's just these lines that are kind of, these waves that are kind of coming out of the speed here, and I'm assuming that represents the battery bars. But we've gone almost 4 miles here. I've gone off-road a few times, going up that hill to get some B-roll. 4 bars of battery here, and we are going uphill, pretty decent headwind, and we're hitting 16, 19, and the controller and the motor might be a little warm right now. That's why I might not be getting full power, because we were really pushing it going up that dirt road uphill, so I might not be getting 100% full power here. We're gonna do some off-road tests downhill, and I think that this is gonna handle that a lot better than the uphill stuff. We're gonna go through this really rocky terrain here. This feels a lot better on an e-bike. And on a scooter, this is pretty rough, I'm not gonna lie. I know you can probably hear my voice. You can see my phone mount's falling down. Now if this was dry, I'd probably be going faster. But since this is all mud right here, I don't want to go too fast. Little uphill section here. Now we're gonna go down a big downhill section, and I suspect it's gonna handle this just fine. Yeah, and you can hear some creaking in the chassis here. It sounds like it's coming from the front. I'm not sure if that's the suspension or what that is. There is some creaking in the chassis. And on the phone, I know you can't see it because it's falling down, but it said back there right before I started braking, we're getting about 18 miles an hour on there downhill. So, okay, it looks like those waves are a battery gauge, because now we're at 3 bars. And we've gone about 4.5 miles on this thing. So, but I was getting up to like 28 on the screen and about 26 on the GPS speedometer here. And now it's not really seeming to be giving me the full amount of power. I think it's because I was taking it off-road uphill like that. So like I said, maybe the controller's a little hot, or the motor. So I'm gonna try and take this thing a little bit off-road here on this trail that I like to go on. And we'll see how it does there. We'll also see how it handles this bump that we always go over right now. I'm going at about 20. Okay, not too bad. Feels like some of that power is starting to come back now. I don't know if things are cooling off or what. Downhill here. Oh yeah, that's fun. One of these days, I hope I get like a really powerful scooter and take that thing off-road, because that would be a lot of fun. But this, you know, you're just kind of casually cruising around. Let's just say you can tell that it's not designed to be specifically like an off-road scooter, but I mean, this is handling it way better. This is a lot more level. I would assume you're gonna overheat this thing if you keep going like this, because this has got to be pretty hard on the motor here. But oh yeah, this is way better than before. Going uphill like that. Hello. This is way better than uphill, man. So I've really been abusing this thing probably the past hour or so, because I've just been taking it up that hill. I took it up a couple times to get some B-roll, so I think that this is just getting really hot right now. But overall, I think this is a pretty good scooter right now. It fixes a lot of the issues that I had with the T7 Max, like I said when we were riding earlier. Another thing I didn't talk about is that there is a USB port up here on the handlebars here if you do want to charge your phone. This phone mount is mine. It didn't come with it. But I mean, everything else so far, you know, this is a really fun little scooter to be riding around town on and taking it off some, you know, light grass trails and stuff. I do like the fact that they upgraded the power and everything, and that it's now a 48 volt. And I think that headlight is actually going to be really good at night. It looks like the one that I have on my Wired Freedom e-bike, but the TurboAnt R9 so far has been pretty cool. I really like the styling on this too. It's pretty minimalistic. It looks a little bit more rugged. You know, you got the sharp angles, and the frame here looks really beefy. The welds are a little sloppy here, but you know, it is what it is. You're not going to be doing crazy speeds on this thing. It's not like you can go 50 miles an hour on this scooter. I am curious how much range we're going to get out of this thing, because it is a 12.5 amp hour battery. So I mean, while we're at it, let's talk about the display on here. It's really basic. It's very bare bones. All it really says is your speed and what mode you're in and whether the headlight's on or off. That's kind of it. There really is no piece setting menu in here either, like on pretty much every other electric bike or scooter that I've had. So I showed you guys back in the garage how to change the push start function on this, which is something you're going to want to do, because otherwise you're going to have to push off every single time you're on the scooter, which gets to be annoying after a while, but it is a safety feature. There's no odometer on here, which I don't really like when scooters do that, because I do like to know how many miles are on this thing in case I ever want to sell it to somebody. Now I just kind of have to guess. So overall, it's really not bad off-road. It's just not made for like extended off-road use or like really tough conditions. Like if you're going uphill and stuff, that's when it starts to cut the power. That's when it starts to slow down a little bit. But now we're on the trails, and this is really where this scooter's definitely more at home at. And I remember on the T7 Max going over these bumps, and it just hurt. But now it's still not super supple, but it's definitely better than no suspension. And I think those air tires have something to do with it, because the other one had those honeycomb tires, which had no air in them. Obviously, they couldn't get flat. But now we're ripping over this pavement, going about 20 on the GPS. It says about 23, 24 on the built-in display here. And this feels really good. If you're gonna buy this to commute around the city and stuff and maybe run some errands, I think this is gonna be a good option for you. I really do like this scooter so far. It's feeling great. Suspension helps iron out the bumps. and it fixes basically all my complaints with the T7 Max. Now, another thing to keep in mind is if you weigh more than me, again, I'm about 150 pounds, you know, you're gonna have a lot more trouble off-road. You're gonna go through battery a lot quicker than I am right now. So just keep that in mind if you do plan on buying this and you are a bit bigger of a rider. The dog was not happy to see me. So the brakes on the R9 are pretty decent. The back one locks up like you would expect on a scooter, but the front one is pretty good. It also has that regen brake on there, so you can feel that kick in, especially at lower speeds. It really starts to pull you. They're not very linear. It's kind of just like nothing, and then the regen brake kicks in and you start to stop. They are drum brakes. I don't know why they didn't put actual disc brakes on here, because it would have been easier to cool them off and everything. And plus in the back, you know, you have a hub motor on this. And if you're using drum brakes, like, you're gonna add a lot of heat to that hub motor. So I don't understand why they did that. Maybe it's cheaper, but it would have been nice to see disc brakes on here. You would have got some better stopping power on here too. I believe the T7 Max had a disc brake. So this has front and rear brakes, which is nice, but they are drum brakes, so not the greatest, but they do stop. They're more than adequate, I'll say that. This is definitely a lot more comfortable to ride further distances because of the suspension and the air tires on this. I think these are 10-inch wheels on here, so I mean, you know, they're not tiny little wheels too, so you can run over some bumps and stuff and still have some stability. But when you're on a scooter, you know, it's definitely not going to be as stable as an e-bike, and we're going to go over a huge bump here. Got some air. These scooters are just a ton of fun to get out and ride around the city and ride around on trails like this. Again, if you want to run this on some grass or something for a little bit, you can definitely do that. It's better than the other scooters that I've reviewed in the past that have just been, you know, basically street-only scooters, and they really aren't made to go off-road. This one's got better tires on it. This one has a little bit more power and everything, so you can take it a little bit off-road. Just stuff like this, you know, going through the park and stuff. Nothing crazy. So there are 3 modes on this, and you can switch them with this button here. This mode only takes you to about 10 miles an hour on the display. The next one takes you to 20, and then in mode 3 it takes you up to the top speed of 28. The grips on here are really comfortable. They're not super squishy, but they are rubber, and they have this like knobby tread on them, I guess, and it feels really good to grip onto. My hands aren't slipping. I don't have any gloves on, obviously, but they feel good. So we're still reading about 3 battery bars here on the display. Again, to touch on the display, I do wish that it said the voltage on here too, so that you could actually see how many volts you have left in your battery, as opposed to just trying to trust the battery gauge, which a lot of times they lie. One thing I noticed too is the regen brake really just, it kicks in pretty strong when even if you just lightly press the brake pedal. But we're still getting up to like 19, 20 miles an hour on this, and it still feels nice and quick. I have no complaints about that. Really going over 20 on a scooter, really going over like 20, 25 on a scooter can get a little sketchy, especially on such small wheels like this. Getting up to the display saying 27 on the built-in display, say about 24 on the GPS, 23, 24. I haven't seen the top speed of 28 on the GPS yet, but I have seen, I think the highest I got it was like 25, 26 when I first was testing it out on here. Overall, I'm really liking this scooter so far. It feels really solid. It feels relatively stable. I mean, as stable as a scooter can feel. But I'm really liking this thing so far. The suspension feels pretty good. I like the fact that you can do some light off-roading on it. And that higher top speed on this thing is nice, because sometimes at 20, you're just sitting there like, okay, I wish I had a little bit more speed. And if I remember correctly, I was really only getting up to 17 or 18 on the other scooters that I reviewed. So it is nice to be able to get over 20. I really like the fact that we have the built-in turn signals, and it beeps and lets you know when your signal's on, so you don't look like a goofball riding around with your turn signals on. The horn is nice and loud so that people can actually hear it. And having a louder horn is nice because you probably are going to be taking this thing in some traffic, since it can go faster. And that's just kind of how you use these scooters. You know, you're using them in the city and stuff, so it is nice to have a bit of a louder horn. And the other one is literally just a bell. But I'm going to keep riding this thing around for a little bit longer, see how much range I can get out of it, and then I will meet you guys back in the e-bike back cave and give you guys my final thoughts on the TurboAnt R9 scooter. So we are back home from the test drive. So my final thoughts on the R9. we were able to get about 16 miles of range on this, so pretty good range for a 12.5 amp hour battery. Now I was taking this thing off-road and really putting it through its paces, so you could probably get some better range, again depending on your weight and the conditions outside and everything, but good range for a scooter like this. This is a pretty big scooter, and I really liked how this thing rode. Some of the things that I really do like about it are the extra added power, and I like the display on here even though it doesn't have the odometer, which again I wish it did have that, but oh well. I love the fact that we have full suspension on here. Now it's not like a plush ride, but it definitely helps absorb some of those bumps, and it solves my complaints from the X7 Max where it was just a really harsh ride. And the fact that we do have the air tires on here instead of the honeycomb tires that are just solid. It is nice to not be able to get flats on the X7, but on this I don't really think you're going to be dealing with that too much because these are really beefy tires. The brakes were kind of not really too great, and the fact that they're drum brakes, it's going to add more maintenance if you do need to take these apart and maintain them. And plus, I just don't think it's a good design in the rear there, how you have a drum brake adding more heat onto the hub motor that's already going to get pretty hot, especially when you're going off-road. So I don't think that that's the best design. Also, this kickstand was a little flimsy too. I know the scooter isn't completely out yet, so this might just be an early version, but I had a little bit of an issue where the kickstand was actually bending a bit. But I mean, everything else on this scooter is just awesome. I mean, the fenders are really strong feeling. The front fender is like metal right here, so it's super beefy. I don't think you're going to have any issues as far as quality with this thing goes because it just feels really well built. It feels really well made, and it feels like it's going to last you for many, many miles. Just keep track of your miles because there's no odometer on here. The red accents to the design. I think this is a really good looking urban commuter scooter. You know, you got the turn signals and everything. You've got a louder horn on this. So I think it's really awesome if you're someone in the city and you need some cheap transportation to get around. Again, this does retail at $529. Any discounts are going to be in the description that I can get for you guys. But I think it's a reasonably priced scooter that can get a lot done. And if you want something that can go a little bit off-road, like on some grass and stuff, this is going to be a good option for you. But it does tend to overheat if you're really pushing it and cut some power, so you're not going to be able to hit that top speed that they claim on here if you're really, really pushing this thing for a long time and off-road. Other than that, I think this is a great scooter, and it's definitely worth your money if you are deciding to pick one up. So if you do want to pick this up, again, I have all the links in the description and in the pinned comment here. But thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to have more bikes on the channel instead of scooters. It's nice to take a break from bikes sometimes and check out these cool scooters. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.